Right here, this very short bald man down here is not an official photographer because his pictures are terrible. But Aslan Ibrahim, Oz is, what are you, Oz does communications. Oz tries really hard sometimes to kind of mold you into this or that or the other, and I just steadfastly stand and say, no, I don't want to do that, I don't want to say that. So I think I may give Oz heartburn and headaches on a daily basis, but yeah, so just so you know, all these people I'm introducing, I just met after the election. A lot of things happened just after the election, and so this is a group of people that have become very near and dear to me in a very short time. In the back of the room, Michelle Chittenden, as my son said yesterday, my son said, hey Dad, that short girl from the campaign just dropped these off for you. So Michelle, I don't even know what to call Michelle. Michelle's name tag says millennial, so she's our token millennial in the campaign team. She hounds us daily about social media, about you name it. So Michelle. And the other Michelle Hanks back there. Michelle is our treasurer, records keeper. She's a bean counter. She doesn't seem like a bean counter when you sit and talk to her, but then when she sends you an email or sends you a message and she's got some real difficult things she wants to deal with, you realize she's a bean counter. So she's the one you want in charge of that. So Michelle just put together our first quarterly FEC filing that I'm sure took her more hours than there are in a week, but I'm completely confident that she did it all and it's all done. So anyhow, thank you, Michelle. So I have some family members here. My mother-in-law and father-in-law, John and Connie Flynn, are back here against the wall. So John and Connie live in Grand Rapids and Ada and are close enough that on a weekly basis, when I'm campaigning and when I eventually am in Washington all week long, I call them very shortly after I talked to Diana and really said we're going to do this. And I said, so are you guys up for driving people places? So I just want to thank them for their support, for letting me marry their daughter. The other folks here are my parents, Mike and Marilyn Davidson. I don't know where my dad's over here, my mom's over there. You can see the family resemblance. So my other short ball photographer, but he is actually a really good photographer. So, and then my family, I got my 3 kids here, Mia, Sam, and Ava. Raise your hands. There we are. So, just because I gotta tell this story, Sam's name will come up one more time, and those of you who have heard it before know what I'm talking about. Those of you who haven't, stay tuned. So Mia, Sam, and Ava are 16, 13, and 10. They are my ego checks on a daily basis, which I think is necessary. I think we all know that, anyone who's had kids at any level, and once you get to 10, 13, and 16, you realize they really keep you grounded. If you ever start feeling too important or too smart or too good, they'll bring you right back to earth. And then finally, and I don't want to get emotional, but I may, but probably not, is my wife Diana. So I say this, and I say this a lot, and she thinks, he's just being funny, he's just saying what he says. She's smarter than me. She is my better self, not even my better half. And as much as my parents taught me through my childhood and how to be a good person and how to work hard, how to persevere, I don't know that I really came into myself until I met her when we were 19 years old, almost 27 years ago. I got married 23, almost 23 years ago. So I could not do this if you were not all in. Diana told me when I first suggested this crazy idea, she said, as long as you stay who you are and don't become morphed into something else, some kind of quote, politician, I will be behind you 100%. And one more person I just have to sing out is a guy named Brad Springer right here. The reason I have to say that is because right after the election, we had this group, Spring Lake Progressives, that started on Facebook with another friend, and we got together at my house. And I said right there, I said, man, before all this, I had one friend, and he's right over here, Brad Springer. So Brad is an old friend who would do lunch with me and talk about politics and talk about stuff. And since I decided to run, I still do that from time to time. So yeah, I had to bring him up just because of that. So I will try not to bore you with too much of the origin of how this whole campaign came to be. But it really started in Baldwin, Michigan, in a town hall on February, I think 25th it was, on a Saturday, in a blizzard. And Sam and I went there. We drove together and got ourselves a seat in the front row, and I was ready to ask a question. I knew I wanted to talk about healthcare. I thought I would be a candidate at that point. Got into the front row, and Heising at that time knew me from Facebook, knew I was a physician because I had really mostly commented on healthcare issues, besides the angry rants that came up once in a while. And he called me and said, "Hey, the doctor, let's ask him a question." So we became engaged in about a 10-minute little mini debate. And whoever is here who was the one who yelled out, "You should run," who is that? Right there. So this is the guy you can blame for all of it. Because in the middle of that discussion, you yelled out, "The doctor, whoever he is, should run 2018, something like that," right? I'm paraphrasing. And the people cheered, and Heising put the mic down and said, "Wow, you got some fans here." And I am confident that November of 2018, he will rue the day that he called on me and started this crazy. So I'm not that stupid. I wouldn't just listen to some random guy in an audience and say, "Oh yeah, that's wrong." So I have to tell this because it's true, and this is what 13-year-old young men will do for their fathers. Sam and I got in the car, we had about an hour drive, and I looked at him, and other people had come up to me after, a few elected officials who were here, came up to me and said, "Hey, what do you want to run? You should run, maybe you should run." And I looked at Sam in the car, and I said, "Sam, what do you think? You think I should run?" And Sam said, I kid you not, "Well, who would vote for you?" I hope I have like 150 votes, so it's good. But it makes you stop and think, okay, well, who would vote for me? And I spent, most of my time for that drive convincing Sam, "Hey, that's not so stupid, that's not so crazy." And then we got to our destination, and the whole family was there, and I started talking to Diana, and she didn't say that, but she had this opinion of, "Really? You really want to do that? You really want to put yourself through that?" Well, anyhow, things came to pass. Early March came and went. There was another town hall in Grand Haven. The critical moment was when I met with a bunch of healthcare with physicians. I know Katrina's here. Katrina was there. Michelle Petz, I think, is here. She's a social worker. She was there. Nurses, other doctors in the area met with Congressman Heisinger at North Ottawa Hospital in their boardroom just to talk about healthcare. Thank you, Karen Joseph, because she set that up right here. And it became clear to me that this was a person that didn't get it, just didn't get the issues we were talking about. And it starts with healthcare, and that's of course what got me into this, because I've been a physician for 15 years as an emergency doc up in Fremont. And it's what I live in my work life, and certainly what I find to be very important. But it doesn't end there, because it starts with his attitude in that room about healthcare. And Michelle can attest to this, and I think Katrina can. It seemed to be a cookbook. I have some answers I'm supposed to say that I'm being told this is how we talk about healthcare. It was all about, well, people have satellite dishes, why should we give them healthcare? Sell your satellite dish. It was kind of like Jason Chaffetz told people, sell your cell phones and then you can get healthcare. Well, I remember Michelle was jumping over the table at him and said, "What do you want them living in a cardboard box before you give them anything?" And so that in that moment, and in the Grand Haven Town Hall, we had another interaction. I really got to that point where I said, "Listen, somebody's got to run against this guy. I feel like I have as good a chance as anyone. I'm not afraid to do it. I can speak to the issues. I have support at home," and at that point I had a little bit of growing support in the community. And so really that was the time, early March, where I decided to run. And so this is not going to be easy. I think we all know that. I had an elected official from Grand Rapids come up to me at a candlelight vigil the other night and said, "Hey, nice to meet you. I'm glad you're running. You know you can't win, right?" Right. And I said, "Well, no, I don't know that, or I wouldn't do this." I said, "I know it's going to be hard. I know it's not probable, but of course I think we can win. I'm taking time away from my family, I'm taking time away from my job, and I'm gonna do this, and I don't do anything halfway. And Tim Smith, who's the tallest guy in the room back there, he's the 2nd Congressional District Chair. I should have recognized him before. Tim has become another close friend. Tim was on the street when this interaction happened, and I went back and forth. I wasn't going to let up. And Tim said, hey, excuse me, I'm the 2nd CD Chair. You're talking to my candidates. I don't appreciate what you're saying. And eventually we just redirected ourselves to talk to somebody else because that wasn't worth it. So do I think we can win this? I absolutely think we can win this. I do not think it will be easy. If it were going to be easy, we would have many candidates. We would have won it before. The last Democrat elected in this district, it looked a little different, but it carried most of the same population centers. The last one was 65. 65 to 67. So we've been 50 years without a Democrat representing the folks in this district. And to me, that's okay. That's okay. I was not a Democrat until 2 days after the election. I had never joined the Democratic Party. I had never paid dues to the Democratic Party until 2 days after the election. Because to me, at that point, something happened. Something was just different. Something was really wrong with the way our country was going. And I decided I need to do something, and I need to figure out which side I'm going to take. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about us and our tribes, Republicans, Democrats, us versus them, and we need to break free from that. But at some point, we all do need to figure out who we're with. Are we on the side of people? Are we on the side of workers? Are we on the side of the lesser in our society, trying to help lift them up? Are we going to be on the side of the billionaires and the bankers and the corporate interests that just have a stranglehold on our government in DC right now? And so I decided I am with the party of FDR. I'm with the party of what would have been Theodore Roosevelt had they not flipped since then. You know, I'm a progressive. And I'm unabashedly a progressive. And I believe, in my heart of hearts, if we take that progressive message and speak about our progressive values to the people of this district, we can start the revolution right here in West Michigan. Yeah. My Democratic Party is people like Tim Smith, people like Kim Nagy, who I think just came in, who's the chair of the Ottawa County Democratic Party. They're folks in these places where Democrats have had their heads in the sand a lot because we're afraid to kind of stand up and say, take notice, here we are. And I feel like, and I had another conversation at the Ottawa County picnic just before this, someone said, well, how do we get the big party Dems to start getting on message and having a unified message? And my answer was, we do it ourselves. We're not going to wait around for someone up here to tell us how we should be talking. We talk our values. We do it every day. We do it with every interaction. We talk to progressives. We talk to conservatives. We talk to independents. We talk to people who've never voted. And if we do that, I truly believe we can win. And when we win this district, you bet people are going to notice. The big Democratic Party is going to look at the second congressional and say, oh my God, they won there saying that? Maybe we should do that. So we may not flip the House in 2018. We may be the only ones who win, and that's okay, but you bet you they're going to listen the next time, and they're going to start talking the same way we're talking. So for me, my big issues, of course, healthcare. I've been an emergency physician for, I started residency in '98, so almost 2 decades working in emergency medicine. I see the front lines of healthcare in this country. People come in distress. A lot of people come in because they can't get into their doctor, or because the only vehicle they have amongst 3 families on their street is one vehicle that runs, and they happen to be available at 2 in the morning, so that's when they got to come to the doctor. I see all these folks, and we don't talk about politics. We don't talk about Republicans or Democrats or who did you vote for. We talk about their issue, but we then, when we have a moment, talk about how expensive it is to get health care nowadays. the astronomical deductibles people are paying. I know people very close to me who have said they lay awake at night thinking about their $10,000 deductible because what if something happened? If something happened and you had a $10,000 deductible, that can bust the budget of many people, I think, in this room, certainly many people in this community and in this district. So healthcare is certainly my key issue, something I live every day and I know well. I am 100% an advocate of an expanded and improved Medicare for all. I think most people are in support of that. Most people in our district, even who voted for Trump, the 70% of people in my county that I work in Owego County, that voted for Trump, they come and see me and complain about the cost of care. These people would all do better under, it's House Resolution 676. There are 115 co-sponsors before this year. So John Conyers, our great congressman from the Detroit area, has introduced this bill for Medicare for all since 2004, I believe. Every single January, 3 or 4 days after the inauguration, they put this bill in there. It's never gone to committee. It's never come to a vote. And usually it's got 20 or 30 co-sponsors, kind of the crazy lefties of the party. It's got 115 co-sponsors this year. So I can do math, and I said, hey, if I get elected, I want to be the 218th co-sponsor, and we can actually get this thing passed in the House of Representatives and bring healthcare for all to the people of this country. And the thing about an expanded Medicare and healthcare for all that nobody wants to talk about, but I'm going to talk about, and people have to start talking about, it isn't just a pie-in-the-sky idea that a bunch of do-gooders want to do for their fellow man. Because it is that. We all want to have health care for everyone, so people don't have to lay awake at night wondering how they're going to pay for their health care. It's also good for jobs. It's good for business. Businesses in this country, I know my parents own their own business for 30 years, getting health care coverage for their employees and themselves within that is a huge expense. And even when they started their business in the late 70s, it was just starting. Nowadays, the cost of insurance for employers, the increases every year, double-digit increases in those premiums every year, employers don't know how to budget that. They can't run their businesses that way. So I think we need to talk to people about how healthcare for all actually is good for jobs, it's good for business, it's not just good for the people. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. And I think Noah for bringing a personal story about healthcare to our attention. Thank you so much. Education, to me, cuts across the whole landscape. We know that a district 2 zip codes away in Muskegon Heights just went into an agreement with the state of Michigan just to stay alive for 18 more months because they don't get the funding they need, because for-profit schools take that funding away, take the students away, and we can't keep our public schools funded doing that. And I think Eric, for talking about that, Eric, yeah, you said you're an educator, you're dad, also a dad. He's got 3 kids in public schools. None of my kids have had you. I hope Sam has you. I requested that next year when he's in 8th grade because I've been in Eric's classroom. And I volunteered. We did a jury for, we had famine on trial for the Irish potato famine and Andrew Jackson on trial for the Trail of Tears and driving the Cherokee. And it's funny because you had these kids arguing their point. They had 5 different camps. Some were the Cherokees, some were the Seminoles, some were the Northern abolitionists, some were Andrew Jackson. And even the people who were supporting Andrew Jackson, they were conflicted because they had to argue this point. But when you would ask them a probing question, one of them said, "It's not what I think, I know." So anyhow, people like Eric and his wife Betsy, who my kids have had, this is public education. Teachers who see education as a calling. To me, my mother-in-law was an educator for 20 years as well, was an AP English teacher for 20 years in Kentwood. It's what this state in particular, and now with the voucher program they're proposing the national level, what they've done to teachers to me is just criminal. So we have a system. Teachers work their butts off. They get their summers off, except for the first 5 years, 10 years of their time, they're not taking their summers off. They're actually going and doing extra training and getting their extra education so they can continue to be good teachers. But what they do is they sit up all night on a Sunday night before school and grade papers, and that's not on the clock. What they do is they buy supplies for their kids in their classes. They buy snacks for kids in their classes whose parents don't send them a snack because either they can't afford it or the parents are working and they don't remember to do it. So they do so much more. And in the past, they got out of college and they were promised, listen, you're going to make less than your cohort that goes and works in industry, that goes and works on Wall Street. But we're going to do this. We're going to give you the best health care there is. We're going to have pensions so that when you retire after 25 or 30 years, you can maintain a standard of living. Well, what they've done is they pulled the rug out from under that. Right? Healthcare, that's no longer primo healthcare for teachers anymore. I know in our district, teachers' pay went up 2%, and that's part of the negotiated contract, and that's good, but their insurance, their healthcare costs went up 5%. So they're not keeping up with that expense. Pensions, as I think most of us in this room know in the state of Michigan, they've gone bye-bye. For new teachers coming in, they're like the rest of us, and some people would say, well, that's fine, that's what we all do. But again, remember, we are entrusting our children and their education with these folks. We're telling them, listen, you gotta take less than everyone else, and now we're also telling them, yeah, and we're not gonna give you that deferred compensation either. So I'm a strong supporter of public education. I think we need to fully fund it in this state and in this nation. I think vouchers and for-profit schools have no business taking taxpayer money away from our kids. Is the environment. I don't know if Jessica's still here. She had a birthday. Oh yeah, sorry. I knew you had a birthday today, one of your kids. You know, all of these issues cut across the spectrum, and they deal with jobs and people. You know, people who are educated can get these jobs of the 21st century. And you spelled out perfectly. I don't even have to talk about it. How the environment is connected to jobs. If we are a part of the 21st century green economy, we can take the industrial base in this district and across the state and really across this country. And unlike Trump saying we're going to get those jobs back, we're going to get those jobs back. Some of those old jobs aren't coming back, but what can we do? We can build wind turbines in this district. We can build solar panels. You know, we can use the workforce that we have and provide for training and be a part of the next economy and grow that and lead instead of follow. So I always write stuff down before I do these things, but I don't ever listen to myself, and I try not to read what I'm doing. You know, so I guess I want to close here with just saying I am overwhelmed and amazed at the amount of support I've seen thus far, at the number of people in this room who've taken time out on a really nice Sunday. Some of you driving down from Pentwater and Ludington, some of you driving in from Grand Rapids, even the folks just in town that aren't out enjoying the beach that want to be here. And we know, the four of us on this campaign committee, hopefully growing, and myself and my family, we cannot do this alone. We are not smart enough, there are not enough of us. We don't have all the answers. This is and I hate to be kitschy, but it's a people-powered campaign. We'll never raise as much money as Bill Heiser did. If we raise as much as he raised the last quarter, he'll double it the next quarter. So we are not going to outspend him, but we can outwork him. Our passion is greater than their passion, because when you stand for something, that is for the people, when you have people working for you that know that what you're fighting for is for them, I just feel like people are going to knock doors and talk to their neighbors and talk to their family, and they're going to be on board. And they can have all the money they want and run all the ads, and they can say whatever they want about me. I just don't care. I think we're going to succeed. Like I said, I would not be doing this if I didn't think in my heart of hearts that we can win this thing. So I appreciate y'all being here.